September 27th, 8:17 a.m. in Maui, Hawaii. And we have 18, work on what has been spoiled, correction. This is a new transit, and it is the vigilance and determination to uphold and defend basic fundamental human rights. Okay, line 1, we have conservatism, the adherence to traditional patterns despite and or in spite of changing circumstances. And exaltation, we have gradual modification to avoid eventual upheaval and the potential to correct through gradual modifications of judgments. And a detriment, we have the patriarch, whose rigidity guarantees deterioration, the potential to refuse correction. So again, you're going to experience the investigation, because that's the first line, the investigation of, right, like what is going to what needs to be corrected, what judgments are relevant, which judgments are not relevant. And again, because we're in these lines have polarity, because as Prana says, if you haven't noticed, a lot of arguing over correcting opinions, right? Like who has the fix? Who has the fix it? Who has the proper fix? Oh, I got the proper fix. I got the proper fix. And the question, of course, always is like, who actually does have the proper fix? And that's a fun thing to figure out in here. My daughter is listening, saying, okay, listening diligently, exactly. Or she's like, yeah, we know. Get to it. Get on with it. Gotta pour my tea, which no one can see. That's cool. So with 18, my partner has 18, so I have a lot of experience with this. In that, there's again an attunement and a lack of attunement for what every situation needs. Just because you have this gate doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to have the correct answer. It just means that for you, the way that you go about investigating it is always going to be fixed. You're going to ask the same questions. You're going to want to know the same things about it. You're going to investigate it in the same way, or have a similar or a familiar, habitual, patternized way of going about it. Again, it means it's fixed. It doesn't mean it's always right. It means it's fixed. And so for somebody to understand, like, for instance, if you have this gate in you, there's this energy of like, I know what needs to be corrected. I know it needs to be corrected. But if you don't have gate 58, then there may not be the energy to actually go about and correct it. That's a full channel versus just having the hanging 18 or the hanging 58 in the root. And so during the transit, look at your chart. 18 is in the spleen, 58 is in the root. Do you have 58? Is the transit hooking you up? Right? Because when the transit hooks you up, and it takes something like an undefined spleen or an undefined root, and it fixes it, right? The mind can then think, oh, okay, so I have the defined root now, I have the defined spleen, it's time to cut things away that aren't good for me, and it's time to, channel my root pressure into stuff. And while you can do that, that's not a sustainable thing for you to do. And so it is advised, I advise kind of against that, in the sense that it's better to just be aware of what energies are present, use them, in like a practical minor way, right? Use this 18 to work on what has been spoiled, but don't build a business around it, right? Don't start a relationship out of this 18 or the 17. So let's go to 17 now. So gate 17 is following opinion. It's the ancient law that those who wish to rule must know how to serve. In the first line, need some tea. Pardon me. So in the first line, we have openness, the energy to sustain a broad spectrum of stimuli, the possibility of having many opinions. Detriment is a tendency to limit openness to aesthetically pleasing stimuli, the possibility to limit opinions to what is pleasing. So here, this is kind of like an echo of the conservatism in gate 18, line 1, in the sense that there is the ability to have multiple opinions without necessarily this one being right, excluding the validity or the relevance or the value of the other opinions, right? In the sense that out of the opinions and out of the corrections, there may be one that is more appropriate for the time, but it doesn't mean that these opinions are invalid, or especially that the people who are bringing them forward are stupid, right? That's where we get the potential to refuse correction, because maybe this person who offered a correction last time, it wasn't the right correction, and so they're dubbed as stupid or unable to offer anything of value. And so much of what human design is inviting us to do is to really be present with what's actually happening, as opposed to just allowing our paradigms or our trauma or the way that we think things should be or the way that things have been dictate what's going on. You know, we have the strategy and authority of our natal body graph to be able to ground us into like what is true right now. And with the transits, again, we have these transient energies that can be kind of hard to grasp, but really you want to grasp them loosely because they're only here for like 6 days at a time. You know, unless you have these gates fixed in your chart, they're only here for 6 days at a time, right? And so, and really like 12 days out of the year. Because right now, 18 is in the sun, 17 is in the earth. 6 months exactly from now, 17 will be in the sun, 18 will be in the earth. They'll switch places. And so, you know, as we're learning to track the transits, not only is this a great way to like learn about the gates as you go, but it's also really cool to watch what's happening in society in terms of, again, like Prana said here, there's a lot of arguing over what correction needs to be made. What's the best course of action? And the arguing is not necessarily a result of the transits so much as it is a result of people being in touch with that part of themselves, gate 18, that wants to work on what has been spoiled, that is vigilant and determined to uphold and defend basic fundamental human rights. Like what is actually the right thing to be doing in this situation. And what a defined, like if you have 18 defined and you have this correction, it means that that's what you should be doing, which doesn't mean you're not allowed to like tell people what you're doing. It just means that if you don't do what your gate 18 is telling you to do, what your intuition is telling you to do, and you blame other people saying they didn't listen to me, they didn't want to do the thing, they didn't think my correction was a good one, and you fail to do that, well, that's probably going to cause some bitterness or some frustration, right? Now, if you don't have the 18 online, if you don't have the 18 fixed, and same thing with the 17, right? In the openness or in having the opinion, there's an energy of like normally you're able to kind of like, right, be open and be flowing and sense kind of what other people's fixed way of going about doing things is. And these are both in awareness centers, right? So it's really about awareness. And is the awareness fixed and for you, or is the awareness open and maybe for other people around you? Is the question that you have to ask yourself. And so with the transits, again, you're looking at a transitory, a very liquid kind of energy, an external influence, as opposed to something that's fixed in your chart that's going to be an internal influence moving outward into the world. So it's good to know the difference between the two, because a lot of the time we make decisions based off of external influencing us, external influencing the internal world. But the power for human beings exists in using the internal world to influence the external world. And of course, there's like external world influences the internal world, mutates and perverts and twists the internal world. And then that power is used to manipulate the outside world. That does exist. Right? That you see that a lot in like governments and large organizations, where there's almost too much influence and there's too much opinions. And this is where you get to the detriment of line 1 of gate 17, which is the possibility to limit opinions to what is pleasing. A lot of the times that can happen in the wake of overload and overwhelm and too many opinions and too many emotions, or too many thoughts, too many ideas, is that okay, I'm only gonna look at the things that I want to look at, or I'm only gonna look at the things that are pleasing to me. And that is detrimental because, I say this kind of often, where it's like, how are you the villain in your own life? And I'm constantly thinking that, how am I the villain in my own life? Because if I consider how I'm being the villain, that can actually help me be the hero. And also, I don't want to ever back myself into a corner where I think I'm incapable of being the villain. Like, if you're, especially as a spiritual man, it's like if you've accepted this idea that you're uncorruptible, or that you're not capable of being a demon in somebody's life or to do harm against people, that's typically when harm is dealt, is because you're in this hubris, you're in this, people call it narcissism, but it's really just like it's unwillingness to accept, and the ability to entertain multiple ideas without the pressure of having to accept or reject them. So I just checked my neutrinos, and in this transit, I have new channels open due to these transits. Which one? You got the 17. You got the 1762. You either have the 62 or the 58, Tim. So, good to notice right now. Really great opportunity for you to notice what things, what awarenesses now feel fixed that didn't feel fixed before. Are you asking the same questions about things? Are you feeling the same way about certain things? Again, with a reflector, it's like we're constantly changing. And so one thing that is important to know, again, is that when a transit comes and gets hooked up, right? Like the undefined ajna, right? The undefined ajna is not here to really be certain about stuff. The undefined spleen is not really here to cut away things that are not good for it, right? And the tendency, it tends to hold on to things that are not good for it. The undefined ajna tends to want to convince others, right, that it's certain. It tends to want to think in a reliable, fixed, have a method of how it can prove itself. And so when the transits come to hook this up, right, there might be the energy to cut away things, but the spleen it's not defined in you, so it doesn't know exactly what's to cut away. So you might end up cutting away things that are actually good for you, in that excitement of like, oh, these channels are active. Moon just hit 63. Okay, I'm pretty sure I definitely have 47. So let me make sense of all this confusion for you. With the ajna, right? The ajna might have start building a method. Oh, this is the formula that I'm going to use to figure all this stuff out and convince people I'm certain. But again, in 6 days, that's going to disappear. That external influence is no longer going to be there. Like, the rain will have passed, but you'll still be walking around in a raincoat with rain boots and an umbrella, looking like you don't follow the transits. You know what I mean? So with the transits, again, we're looking at an important piece of human design, because these are the influences that imprint onto new babies, that causes those new babies to be the way that they are. It fixes their gates in such a way that now it's like you can look at the birth chart or the human design of a brand new baby. And Dom and I'm sure you're going to, when you get your baby, have someone be able to take a screenshot of exactly what time they were born, because that's important. But you'll be able to look at that chart, right? And you'll be able to, how you say, kind of like anticipate some of the challenges that you might have with that child, in that, you work one way and your child is going to work in a different way. And I was reading studies about child psychology and development, and they say that there's over 400 predetermined qualities before we ever get to influence our children, or the world ever gets to influence our children. there's already over 400 predetermined qualities and behaviors that are going to emerge at some point in that child's life. And those 400 qualities are going to be chosen from a gene pool up to 14 generations. So your dad's 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 dad's. There's a lot. There's a lot to it. And what we can say about human design and how this works is because in our adult lives, how helpful this system has been, using it to at least experiment with what is going to be the best strategy and authority for reaching your child and communicating with your child is going to be like, I'm doing it. My daughter's a manifester, and I do my best not. I catch myself telling her what to do. Don't go in there, honey, rather than, oh, hey, baby, do you want to play with this? Right? Distraction and more information as opposed to just telling her not what to do. So let's see. Missed the beginning, transit gate 18. I have conscious sun in 18. I have the full channel. Does this help explain why I'm depressed today? Birthday is this Saturday, which always get depressed now, but especially bad today. All I can think about is all my life failures. I hate this channel so much. Aw, that's sad. But also, I used to be that way, so I can relate. And for me, I really didn't have anything that I was excited about, and I didn't feel like any of my friends really liked me. But it was always because I never really liked myself, you know. Um, my partner also has this channel, the 1858, and it's one where, like, it's a projected channel, so it has to be invited to share its guidance, which is why there's a lot of pressure that builds up in the sense of, like, I can see so clearly what this person is doing, quote unquote, wrong, and what they need to do to align themselves with themselves and where they're fighting themselves, right? And what happens typically is that that pressure gets, and that correction and that judgment gets internalized. Yeah, so small split definition, so turned inward. So what happens with that turning inward, right, is now the judgment is being placed on myself. And so what's happening, though, of course, is because this is one, like, that is, how you say, it's fixed in the sense that, if you don't have people in your life who are inviting you to share those judgments, there's the tendency to want to say, oh, no one in my life is ever going to ask me about this kind of stuff. Healer here. Hi. No one in my life is going to ask me stuff. And that, unfortunately, is fixing the rest of the world into your paradigm. And so that regardless of who comes into your life, you've already decided these people are not going to ask me about the intuition I have and the wisdom that I have. And this is a lot of this is also just projection from my partner and what I've seen from them. And she struggles with this, of having friends, because it's something where everyone is always having troubles in their lives. Everyone is always doing something that is kind of going against themselves, and no one's perfect. And internalizing that pressure because you're not able to share it. There's very creative ways to release that pressure. Right? For instance, ritual is probably the most powerful way to internalize these pressures in a healthy way, in the sense that it's like when you feel these pressures building up, literally go journal and write out the corrections that you think these people need, and then you burn that piece of paper, and then now it's like you're praying to the spaces in between. You're not necessarily going and directly correcting them. You are again praying to the spaces in between. It's this ability to send blessings or send healing to somebody, but they get to decide when to receive it. right? And so it doesn't necessarily need an invitation because you're not necessarily expending a lot of energy to be in somebody's aura and to deliver this information. It's more like a pressure valve release. And so anyone with the 1858 really, again, that's a projected channel, so it works best when it's invited. And to keep from internalizing that pressure, again, that's one of the ways that you can do it. Another way is to like write a song and engage it, but engaging it in some kind of creative process. Um, we had a woman come, oh, Soul Prospering, there you are, who is she, she posted some stuff in creative endeavors. And, why is art so healing? Why is music so healing? Why is writing so healing? Well, because you're able to take the things that are in your mind and in your body and the electricity, and you're able to discharge it. It's like if you have a light bulb that can only handle so much energy, you have to limit the amount of energy, or you have to find a way to discharge that energy before it blows the light bulb out, right? Or you have to have in the next series of light bulbs, stronger light bulbs or release gauges so that the whole system doesn't explode. But I will say internalizing that 1858 is something a lot of people go through. So understand that like you're not alone, and also that in the projector channel, right, bunch of projectors, if you're feeling something, right, if you're feeling some type of way, see if other people are feeling that way. That's an invitation to all the projectors in my Discord here, in our Discord here, is like, if you're feeling some type of way, check in with your other projectors and see if they're feeling that way too. Does anyone else feel depressed around their birthday? Right? Because that's less initiating, and that's more just like a curiosity. And then plus also you're with a bunch of projectors, right? So I pulled some cards this morning thinking I will spend some time to write on that. Yeah, Ronan, not on topic, don't read aloud, but oh, wait, did you say don't read it aloud? I want to read it aloud. Oh, oh, this is just for me. Okay, I'm gonna read it aloud. The house's baby's moon can clue you in on what to successfully destroy. Oh, their Saturn can clue you in on what kind of discipline they most resist. Ah, okay, great. I love that. Thank you so much. That's so helpful. Um, I'm gonna have to look in, see what kind of distractions I can do. So anyway, that'll conclude the transit recording here. So I'm gonna go ahead and end that, and then we can hang out for a little bit longer.